Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kanchi Shah, your host for the day, and it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to the Connected Manufacturing webinar on unlocking resurgence, acceleration, and growth. This webinar is brought to you by Dell Technologies, powered by Strategic Solutions. For many manufacturing organizations, especially in the mid-market segment, operations, the very core of business, can often throw up seemingly unsurmountable challenges. This is all the more compounded by legacy processes and traditional mindsets that resist change that will necessarily come with this transformation. For the mid-market manufacturing sector today, the need of the hour is scale and agility, both attributes that are dependent on the transformation of operating models and the reliance on an ever-increasing volume of data and its ability to provide real-time intelligence to power strategic business decisions. Today's gathering is a first of its kind virtual event focused on the revival and resurgence of the manufacturing sector and the convergence of technology and human capital in driving acceleration towards the reimagining of scale, agility, and business value. Our first session this morning is a fireside chat on Industry 4.0, connecting the dots. We will see in conversation Mr. Amit Saluja, Senior Director and Center Head, NASSCOM COE, and Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions. We will hear them deliberate on how operational excellence can be orchestrated and measured towards the larger goals of resurgence, acceleration, and growth. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host Arjun Vishwanathan, and I am going to be in segment one in conversation with a very eminent industry leader from NASSCOM in this segment titled Industry 4.0 Connecting the Dots, where we're going to speak about how the clamor for industrial resurgence and accelerations grows louder, especially in the mid-market of the MSME segment. And a growing realization is increasingly around how the tenets of Industry 4.0 could be leveraged to drive operational excellence. But this journey is, easier said than done. And many would tend to agree for the simple reason that the question of what operational excellence looks like remains to be holistically addressed. And even more so, the question of how to get there. And to discuss this in fair detail, please join me in welcoming Mr. Amit Saluja, Senior Director, NASSCOM Center of Excellence. Amit, outstanding that you could be here, and we are privileged to have you with us. Thank you for joining us, Amit.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to this session.
Amit, I'm going to, given the time duration that we have, I'm directly going to get into it. We've just had the backdrop of, a fair amount of disruption over the last 12 odd months. And industry has been seriously and very severely constrained in a lot of aspects. And especially so the mid-market of the MSME segment, especially in the manufacturing sector. And it is fairly true that, a lot of challenges have posed themselves that need to be addressed. From NASSCOM's perspective, Amit, and given the wide spectrum of the view that you have, what in your assessment is the current situation and how should it be addressed? Amit Saluja.
Sure. So if we are talking specific about the MSME segment right now, we were in a situation, I'm starting about a year back, right? We were in a situation where if we talk about digitization, especially in the MSME segment, there was clear kind of very little interest that was there. That was a situation in a year back. And just think of what is the level of the engagement or the contribution that the MSME segment makes. Literally 1/3 of the manufacturing right now in the country is done from the MSME segment. And the volumes are huge, correct? What they produce is in a very kind of an small value in terms of the value, but from the numbers point of view, it is huge. MSME sector is the backbone for the large manufacturing companies in the country because all of their finished products goes to the large manufacturing as their raw material. So the success of the MSMEs is extremely important. for kind of for them, for the large manufacturing companies to succeed. And that's where we call it as an ecosystem, where everyone is kind of working together through a chain. Now, when we are talking about the situation that MSMEs were in, correct, we have seen that kind of a lockdown phase where everything kind of got on standstill. And after that, there are slowly the things are kind of improving. The biggest impact that happened within the manufacturing was on the supply chain. Second impact was on the availability of the worker or the resources, because there is a lot of movement that happened. Third one, which came up into, is the safety. Huge kind of focus got into the safety. So that's where the priorities or the focus areas of the MSME industries started changing. And now we are seeing that MSME industries, they are looking forward to what they can do to improve productivity, efficiency, safety, whatever the parameters earlier we used to call it as a large manufacturing taking forward. Now even the MSME sector is also looking towards it. But the challenge they face is basically the level of a digital skills is very, very low.
I mean, because it's a very fascinating point that you make there, because that's exactly where I was coming to, which is now that we've established the fact that there seem to be a fair bit of challenges, but equally the opportunities that present themselves are immense, fairly unprecedented, if I may be allowed to use that particular term. In given this kind of a context, how do you see human capital at one end? On the other side of the pyramid, if I were to say, is this whole concept of transformative shifts in mindset, and last but not the least, technology. How do you see the convergence of these three happening to the degree that it can and it should?
Convergence is happening, but I will say there is an intent, there is a desire, but the amount of conversion which is happening is still low. And I think this industry needs help. I mean, intent, definitely it is there earlier. I mean, again, I'll quote one more stat right now here. The number of companies, MSME sector, who were using digital technologies to some extent before this pandemic was about 30%. After the pandemic, it is 50%. Right? So you can see that, there is already a 20% shift which has happened in the usage. Now, this increase of 20% has only happened at a very kind of a basic level. Correct. So that's why while you are saying that how important is the convergence or how it is happening, but at a slow pace. Intent is there. Right? But this industry needs help. We need to kind of create an awareness about what digital can do, what are different solutions are there that can help them, how they can achieve the ROI if they have to start something on the digital journey. What kind of an initial baby steps that they need to take? What are the solutions they can immediately adopt? This basically will get a feel of what digital can do it for them, how the impact it is coming. So I think it will be it's a journey, and it's a journey for, you can say, if you're specific talking about the India market, there are lakhs of manufacturing companies, right? So that's the other point which come in. We have to take these so many companies move forward, and that's where the lot of challenges will come up in how do we create level of awareness, what kind of a resource base or the skill base that we have from the supply side of it, who can actually serve the needs of these MSME sector. So all of this defining the convergence, what you were saying, I think we all kind of need to help this industry.
It's interesting that you mentioned this whole concept of digital, because that also brings me to an important facet of industrial resurgence, revival, and an acceleration towards value orientation. The whole tenets of Industry 4.0 and the underlying technology. So whether that's edge computing, whether that's IoT and sensors, whether that's artificial intelligence and machine learning, whether it's greater automation. From NASSCOM's point of view, how are you seeing the adoption and the evolution of maturity in the adoption and adaptation to these technologies happening? And what, Amit Saluja, in your view, is the essential guidance that you'd like to give to this wonderful audience that's joined us today on how they should progress in this journey? How should they even approach it?
So I think I've already said, with respect to the what is happening it is happening, but at a very basic level. It is still not happening where we can say that they are actually started seeing the benefits. See, whatever the 30% to 50% has happened, it is more towards the like the some of the remote calling has started happening, or some kind of basic solutions that MSME sector has started adopting. They all have good machineries in place. If you talk about in the production point of view, correct? I mean, a lot of MSME sector I have seen, or the companies I have seen, they have bought in good machinery, which is producing the product with less of a workforce and with a good quality. So that part it is there. But on the operational part of it, the systems are kind of still not there. So that's where our advice to the MSME sector is, first of all, is identify which are the areas there are which is causing the pain points. Look at the easy to use, easy to deploy, and the low cost solutions which can give immediate benefit. So those kind of solutions, I think maybe first should be prioritized to be adopted, and then think towards the adopting the all the other solutions which will say have a bigger investment, but definitely they will have a bigger ROI also. But initially, I will say, look through the challenges, what you are facing. I think every company will have their own different set of challenges. You will have to look through what are my immediate pain points, whether logistics is my issue, product delivery is my issue, or the current assets or the equipments that I am using within my manufacturing plants. Is that not like there are a lot of failures are happening in that, correct? So that could be other kind of an issue. Now, depending upon that, you need to kind of pick up the solutions which needs to kind of start. Other way I can say is, I mean, how do you identify these kind of issues and then come up with some kind of a roadmap for that is the design thinking as a kind of an approach. And I think that's a way or a structured process which can be used by any level of an organization, whether it is a small, medium to high, correct? It is all about a structured process of identifying the challenges that the internal, I mean, workers or the users or the customers face, and what could be the different ways to identify the possible ideas or the solution that can help in those challenges. So I think design thinking will help. Other advice I will have is to look for agility. I mean, agility from the point I said that, I mean, you start with the some certain basic steps and then moves towards it. So, I mean, we need to be kind of an agile look. Everything cannot be perfect at one at kind of just with you'll have to have a phased wise approach. You plan something, achieve those goals, see the impact or the benefits that you've got through them, then look for the next level of an iteration, basically where you are incrementing the other solutions that that are possible, correct? So the whole digital roadmap needs to be based on the agile approach with a phased wise plan on what needs to be done, and seeing the benefits, and I think that's where you will start also getting the support from the internal organization also. When the initial benefits which will come up, then the support will also comes up, and then you'll understand the whole ecosystem also who can help. And when I'm talking about ecosystem, I definitely would want to talk about the startup ecosystem, because I mean, as I said earlier, we have lakhs of companies in India who will definitely need help. But from the solution provider point of view, I mean, we still have a limited set. So that's where these startups as an ecosystem or as a way to implement the solution basically becomes very important, because startups are again agile, they are flexible, they are innovative, they are hungry to do more. They basically bring in all the right skills of the within the digital, and then what they can do. So I think looking towards the startups, working with them closely will also help, and even co-creating.
I must ask you a very pertinent question. There, you spoke about the whole concept of identification and understanding, and therefore, I think from a technology perspective, I also take it to be symbolic of the availability of such huge amounts of data and intelligence that is available to us and to industry today. where it must be leveraged to its fullest capacity to become a strategic asset. Therefore, from that point of view, and if you look at Industry 4.0 as a concept also, do you feel that automation and artificial intelligence and machine learning kind of have an edge in terms of the technologies that must be adopted slightly ahead of others, perhaps? I mean, do you get that kind of a orientation?
Yeah, so automation, I think we have been talking since long now. Now we are definitely have come to a stage where we are talking about the AI and then data-led decision making, right? So that is definitely is kind of is the need of the hour. Industries have been facing with the problem that there is not enough even the data acquisition was happening. While so much of your data is there, but not all the data in a right format is getting collected at a place and then using that data to create an insight. So we never kind of had this an integrated approach within the organization. And I'm talking specific for the MSME sector here, correct? I mean, large manufacturing companies definitely agree there is a lot of work has already been done. But this segment, again, the need to think through the what data is required, essential, that can help us in taking a decisions which will help basically giving us insight to take an informed decisions. I think that's where also it is an extremely important step. So for that MSME sector, what I will say is, I mean, think through the collection of the data also, because right now a lot of these data will stand either maybe in some part of the ERP will be there, for other function it could be in the spreadsheets, so that data will be there, for some other function the data itself is not there, right? So what we need to do an integrated approach where the data is coming from the all the different functions of an organization coming at one place, then you are doing an analysis, and then using the analysis the decisions are taken. And AI is definitely kind of and can do a big help. I mean, AI is definitely not just to replace a human workforce, correct? It can do a lot more.
They play a very complementary role.
The augment the human intelligence. So that's where we need to look at the AI and the analytics. So
Thank you. That was quite brilliant, really. But and I do have a view on the clock. My real last question to you, given that you have very powerfully articulated the opportunity landscape that lies out there for the manufacturing industry as a whole and for the MSME in the segment in particular, what, according to you, are maybe two or three pitfalls that one must avoid in this transformational journey that each of them will undertake over the course of the next few months and the next few years?
so pitfalls basically, I mean, first will be try to kind of and take a huge leap, right? I mean, you can't kind of and just think of starting all together, because for that, I mean, you'll need the enough budgets, timelines, and everything. So I think the biggest thing will be to identify where I can start first. That is should be the first point. Second point is, I think we need to kind of an upgrade and upgrade on the skills point of view. While I don't say that I think you need to understand these technologies better, but what you need to understand the application of the technologies to the different use cases. So I think that level of an awareness in the skills, I think it is very much needed. And one way to do it is basically look through the possible different kind of solutions and how they are getting used in the industry. And say from the NASCOM side, I mean, we're just kind of shortly we're launching the Smart Manufacturing Competency Center. This basically will be a showcase of all the different industry 4.0 technologies at one place together, where multiple solution providers, large technology companies, services companies, and the startups will come together and display their solutions at one place. And that will be a kind of a comprehensive solution base which will be available for the manufacturing leaders. And then I think I encourage MSME sector to really kind of solutions live in action there, and then get a lot of awareness from how it can help.
Outstanding. Amit, thank you so much. That's pretty much what we have time in the segment for. And like always, it has been nothing short of brilliant hearing your views, given the wide spectrum that you have, the wide vista that you have from NASCOM. Thank you so much. And for the audience, I was in conversation with Amit Saluja, Senior Director, NASCOM Center of Excellence. We will be back in just a short moment with the next segment. Stay tuned, and we'll be just back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amit and Arjun, for the engaging discussion on how the tenets of Industry 4.0 can be leveraged to drive operational excellence. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar. Your feedback is extremely invaluable to us and will help us improve the content, presentation, and structure of our webinars and virtual conferences. With that, we now move forward to our next session, which is a panel discussion on manufacturing excellence, unlocking resurgence, acceleration, and growth. Deliberating on today's theme, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, the Chief Research Officer, Strategy, will be engaging in a conversation with Siva Subramaniam M, the Global CIO, VA Wabag Limited, and Mr. Xavier Kurian, the Director, Solutions and Alliances, Tel Technologies. The experts will discuss how manufacturers can optimize their operations and understand the interplay between technology evolution and Industry 4.0. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and in this segment of this wonderful episode of the webinar called Connected Manufacturing, Unlocking Resurgence, Acceleration, and Growth, I'm going to be in conversation with two very, very eminent gentlemen from industry, leaders in their own right, and powerhouses as far as the leveraging of technology to drive industrial acceleration is concerned. Because I think one of the reasons that this introduction merits the importance that it does require is that for many organizations, and especially in the manufacturing sector and in the mid-market MSME space, the very core of business is now up for grabs as far as moving forward from the challenges onwards to seizing the opportunities is concerned. That is why it is all the more important and critical today that manufacturing organizations in the mid-market segment or the MSME segment move forward from legacy processes and traditional mindsets and move forward to true acceleration and resurgence to be able to tap into the growth that exists and is up for taking. And to discuss this, please join me in welcoming Siva Subramaniam N, Global CIO, VA Tech Wabag. Siva, wonderful that you could join us. Welcome. Delighted to have you.
Thank you, Arjun. It was always a pleasure to be interacting with you.
Thank you, sir. And none other than Xavier Kurian, Director, Solutions and Alliances, Dell Technologies. Xavier, welcome. Privileged to have you with us.
Good to be here, Arjun, and always a pleasure.
Gentlemen, I'm going to, given that we have about 30 odd minutes, I'm going to directly jump into this. Is that, Siva, with your permission, I am going to come to you. Is that over the last 1 year, there's been a fair amount of discussions around the whole concept of disruption and how a lot of traditional concepts and operating models have been upended. Now, if we were to look forward to the future, and especially looking at it from the manufacturing, logistics, utility space in the mid segment or mid-market segment or the MSME segment, in your opinion, have we gone ahead of the challenges to come to a position where we are able to see the opportunities? And if you do agree, what really are the opportunities that you're seeing that have come up that will help industry drive resilience and resurgence? Siva, I come to you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's an appropriate question for us. So, see, generally in the practice, we never thought that the industries like utilities or EPC can work from home. So that has become true. It was never even thought in the dreams also. But I think it is made true. So COVID, courtesy to COVID-19. So we have all been there working from home and all remote and whatever was possible to extend the support and everything was happening. Most of the top management thought that this is never possible, and it was now made possible. Why don't we leverage this to the next level? So the IT or digital is being seen as from the support function. Now it has moved to the enabling kind of function where it is kind of enable for the business where technology plays a very important role. So in this context, I think we are a couple of initiatives we have taken, and people started thinking about why don't we do the digitalization of the entire process of water treatment. Is it possible to do the kind of centralized control over, now that it's utilities business is very important. You can't afford to take a kind of downtime. Is there any way where we can do control over central places, where instead of setting in, suppose we have a plants across locations, is there any possibility to sit in central control room to monitor the different plants across locations? So that is one thing which we were thinking. This, if it is really helpful, then I think it will be a kind of great shop floor information to top floor information, which will move. So one of the exploration is also been under progress. So it's like basically there is a valve which is there in a pump house, which is maybe 40 kilometers away from the city, and there is a possibility that it could be an unmanned and going forward. So where the technologies like IoTs can help us in kind of controlling the parameters of the valve, what is the flow rate it should be.
Xavier, I come to you, and what Siva's talking about walls being 40 kilometers away and being remotely viewed, remotely monitored, and remotely planned and operated is really manifest in the truest concepts of connected manufacturing. Uh, so and you're in a privileged position because you have the wider spectrum of looking at technology and its enabling role in helping industry bring in that resilience today. When you look at it from Dell and your larger partner ecosystems perspective, how are you working towards partnering industry to better resilience, enhance growth, and unlocking value where it matters and when it matters? Xavier Kurian.
So Arjun, let me put it this way. We've been talking about unlocking the potential of data for quite some time, right? Now, the potential of data is exactly what Shiva was talking about, right? You have a valve sitting 40 kilometers away. How do you control it sitting somewhere else instead of sending somebody down there or having that post manned? There are an n number of things that you can use data for in these kind of environments. Do you control the valve by time? Do you control the valve by pressure? And you can take a sensor input of your outcome and then feed that back into an automation process that switches on and off that valve. We've seen that in the maintenance sector for some time, right? We've seen customers that have put vibration sensors, sound mics essentially on machinery, and analyze waveforms of sound and vibration patterns to say, well, is this machine going to fail, right? And the learning curve on that can be actually quite fast. If you have 20 machines running, a specific sound might indicate that a ball bearing is going to fail. Another set of vibration could mean that it is badly aligned or something else. There's a whole bunch of input that can come out of a machine that can create data that can have meaningful results. I was talking to one of these units that did periodic maintenance in X amount of time, and they changed ball bearings either which way. And when I was talking to him, he said that it's not worth not changing it, because if the machine fails outside of cycle, my losses are too high because the entire production line stops. So I might as well change everything when I get the opportunity to. And we were looking at it. They started collecting the right set of data, and they were able to determine that some of these things don't really need to be changed, which resulted in a very clear return on investment and very fast, because they were collecting fairly basic information, right? They were collecting vibration and they were collecting sound, right? The sound that each of these devices made. And with just that into a analytics environment, they were able to create a very good predictive algorithm. It took them a year and a half to go for the algorithm to go learn. But once that happened, they were able to start predicting far more accurately when things were going to go wrong. Right?
Leapfrog the traditional evolution that it would have taken.
Change the way you are doing things. Your standard process is to go say, hey, I can't take the risk of my line going down, so I'm going to spend 40 lakhs a year and change everything in that line. Instead of that, go say that I'm going to take the same amount of downtime of that line, but I'm going to split it into three different times of the year, and I'm going to make only the changes that I really need. Right?
No, it's interesting.
To be able to accurately say exactly what I need to go and maintain is a result of data that I've collected.
That is true.
Right? So that's capitalizing that is absolutely capitalizing a data potential. Those kind of examples in manufacturing are phenomenal, right? And it's not just maintenance. In supply chain management, in inventory management. How much inventory does an average factory have today? How many factories know that accurately?
That's precisely what I'm going to bring to Shiva. Shiva, now this is getting a little interesting because you see the fact or the underlying fact that technology can be an enabler par belief is a fair, evident fact as we speak today. If that were to be so, Shiva, and you yourself are saying that the benefits of technology far outweigh any risks, any further or other changes, what, in your opinion, and what in your essential guidance will it take Indian industry, and especially the mid market, the MSME segment, to actually adapt to the changing circumstances and adopt technology in a much more aggressive and enthusiastic fashion?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a little tricky question. So I think the technologies have now become little cheaper than earlier because of courtesy to cloud and stuff like that. You don't need to invest so much money in terms of infrastructure and stuff like that to before even explore something. I'll give you a simple example. There is a need for us to trace the employees, not the employees, the field workforce. If we, the entire city of some two major cities in India, we are doing the entire utility maintenance and operations. It is important for us to trace the employees wherever they are in. And in a normal scenario, we would have been thought that we need to invest so much money in terms of infrastructure and stuff like that. But we went with some small players where there are technologies available wherein you can just pay as you use, and but the investments are very minimal. It's basically the negligible investment. So that is one of the things where the organizations are looking at exploring technologies with a we don't need to since it
But Shiva, may I interject with your permission? Is the argument purely one of fiscal prudence in the current scheme of things or in the immediacy of time? Or would you not perhaps recommend and guide organizations to look at investments today as a method of saving incrementally tomorrow?
Absolutely. See, there are many places where the if you look at the capex or any of the apex investment, if you look at the ROI perspective, there are many technologies which are available even after the ROIs in terms of IRR, ROIs in terms of maybe in less than 2 years or so, and it is going to be kind of gestation period for this technology is going to be so huge. So I don't. I think the management or the people spending is also it is now opened up. Earlier, it is not like manufacturing. You are very in a closed environment. So that concept is now gone out basically.
Very interesting that you say that because Xavier, I come to you. Please. I think you have a point, Xavier.
I want to add a little to what Shiva said, and I completely agree with him. Right, that ROI and and cost and how soon you can go recover that cost is critical to going and making a decision. But one of the, and I've spoken to a lot of these manufacturing houses that have made some of these investments. One of the values that most people realize after they have made the investment is where else they can use that data. And that value you're never going to be able to determine today.
No, not at all.
You're going to be able to determine it only when you need that data, right? And I don't want to, I want to give this example in the terms of retail, right? And I'll give this in terms of a retail store that did stocking of shelves basis demand, right? So it's a science, and there are applications that do it. There's a lot of analytics that goes in on how, what kind of people come in. And you can walk into any major supermarket right now. The shelves will be stocked differently during the weekday and during the weekend,
as compared to the weekend,
right? And the
That
reason,
if you look at strategically, whatever the things which you need, that will be in the last, so that you can
hang on, right? The reason they do that is because they've managed to collect data on what people buy during the weekday and what people buy during the weekend, and what are the things to keep on adjoining shelves if you want to move it faster. Now, you wouldn't have been able to do this unless you had the data on where each item was placed when it originally built, right? A year and a half ago, when you started looking at this data, if you had only the billing data and not the placement data, you'd never be able to
figure out,
right? The utilization of this data, the use case for changing stocking patterns came later, right? It came later. Another very interesting thing on how shelves are stocked. I don't know whether you've noticed this in a supermarket, but very rarely will they keep products vertically. They will put
it's mostly horizontally so that your arm can reach out and pick it up.
And that's another study that got done. If you keep it vertically versus horizontally, what changes? The ability to go make those experiments. Now, that's a zero cost experiment for a supermarket, right? I've got the inventory, I've got the method to go stock it. I want to go change that a little bit to see what the results are. But the important piece is to be able to collect that data so that you can find value for it later.
And Xavier, if you may permit me to stick with you, you articulated this narrative in a very powerful manner. And I think for this wonderful audience that's tuning in and listening in to us today, the benefits are clearly out there and very clear and very present. But in your estimate, what stops or what are the hindrances that the MSME segment, especially the manufacturing, utilities, logistics, that segment, what must they address in order to truly move forward on the path of transformation by leveraging, or really, well, if I were to put it, converging human capital with emergent technology to create a digital core?
Arjun, I think the first step is to start somewhere. Right?
That's an interesting one.
A lot of the at least in the MSME segment, a lot of the manufacturers are still running on a paper and pen. While accounting, the bookkeeping has largely switched to digital. A lot of the workforce management, inventory management, supply chain management, a lot of those pieces are still in its infancy. Now, obviously, some of them have set up some amount of inventory management, etc. But very few of them have started tying together these multiple pieces of data. I think that's the first step. The first step is to go look at all the pieces of data, disparate sets of data you have, and start tying it all together. Start referencing all the different data sources you have to one common data pool so that you can go analyze that data. Then start looking at what is the next piece of data that you need. And I'll give you an example. So if you've got a manufacturing house that has accounting and let's say in stockyard or inventory on that is digitalized, And maybe you've got labor as well digitalized, timekeeping, labor in and out as well digitalized. Can you bring all of this data in and start looking at input, output, labor, time spent, and start looking at efficiencies, right? Start looking at efficiency of labor. That's one piece. Then can you go say, okay, let me go add a bunch of cameras that go look at time spent away from a machine, right? So start putting a measure around that efficiency, and start looking for ways to improve that efficiency. Let me assure you, that efficiency improvement will not come from making workers work more in front of their workstations. That efficiency improvement will come from making the line move faster.
And Xavier, I'm going to pick that one particular point, and Shiva, I'm going to come to you. You see, it brings me to then the most important question of the day. And Shiva, you've got a wide-ranging audience tuning in and listening in today to us. What is your advice to your peers, your juniors who are going to in within industry and in the manufacturing, logistics, utility segments from a mid-market MSME point of view? What is your advice to them on how they should even start this journey, number one? And secondly, how should they build the narrative within their own organization so that the acceptance is faster?
You need to have a business case, or you need to have kind of, you might have done some pilot or kind of POCs, you should have done it, or at least the business valuation with the business impact analysis and things like that you should
And
have.
this should classically span what frame of time, according to you?
It depends on the size of the organization and size of the, it varies from business to business. Uh, the business case varies. Maybe it should not take more than 3 months. If you look at it, first you need to have a digital blueprint of for your business. That is what is very important. You should get a buy-in. Once you get a buy-in from the management, and with the kind of investment what you are looking at it, and what is the benefit which is going to reap benefit out of this particular investment, so then it is easy cakewalk for you to.
With your permission, may I interject there, Shiva? You said it beautifully. You need to have a digital blueprint, and that precisely was the question that I had in mind. We understand that the fiscal business case is obviously something that is the flesh and blood of the yes or a no or a maybe. But the digital blueprint, as an IT practitioner who's got his elbows deep in technology, how do you build the narrative within the organization of what the digital blueprint should be?
See, the difference between digital blueprint and the IT strategy is kind of IT strategy, or the uh, kind of business process re-engineering or stuff like that, is only things about what are you doing presently in the manual way, and what is the possibility for you to automate it, or through some systematic process. That is the normal way what we have been doing it for so many years. And the digital blueprint is a kind of eye opener for the business. You are doing it in the business with the way you are doing it right now, and there could be entirely different way where we can change your the way you work. And there are certain process, maybe it's mundane and it's not even required.
Perhaps
So
not.
simple example, let's take an example for if you wanted to do automate AP process, accounts payable process, using your kind of bot and stuff like that. It is no, nobody might have even thought about it. There are certain process, mundane process being done through this. And if you look at other constructions or some construction industry or something like that, if you're putting IoT and sensors in your even a crane or your construction equipment, and you can even say that what are the kind of data which is being there. And if you're tying up with the manpower, maybe with the particular resources, and you're also tracking through the some digital way of where through the IoT and LoRa or something like that, if you're able to consume that entire data, like Xavier said, this is the material quantity has been consumed, and these are the labors have been there, and this is the kind of equipments have been utilized for these particular activities. The entire progress, project progress itself, it should come out of the system.
That's a
So
very
nobody might
interesting
have even
perspective.
So if you look at the normal project manager at site, he may not be even need to know about it. He may not be knowing it, but that information is there with the top floor, saying these are the so much material has been consumed and through some kind of platforms are available. So so much
Interesting.
material, so much manpower, and so much equipment have been utilized for excavation purpose. So obviously, this is the cubic meter of mud have been removed or put in, and this is the so many kind of quantities of cements or something has been utilized. So obviously, you can get the progress.
It becomes I get what you're saying. I think it's just that the manifestation of the results increasingly become powerful by themselves to help the narrative sell by itself within the organization. But gentlemen, I do have a view on the clock. We have had a fascinating set of conversations. But Xavier, I will come to you therefore in conclusion with a very pertinent, very critical, pivotal question. We've heard what Shiva has said, and it clearly boils down to the fact that the acceptance and the acknowledgement uh, exists. Is it commensurate perhaps to the levels of the evolution of adoption? Perhaps not. And therefore, within the mid market, the MSME segment, particularly Xavier Kurian, how are Dell and AMD coming together really and the larger ecosystem in partnering the MSME segment to spur them on to further growth and action? Xavier Kurian.
So, Arjun, the first thing we did is to try and make this easier, right? Now, and I'll be honest, when we started this journey, it used to confound me, right? Putting one of these data analytics or data link systems in place to be able to link two data sources is not easy. So Dell has a sister concern called Boomi that can go and link multiple data sources and synchronize multiple data sources. We tied up with partners like Cloudera and other small businesses actually in across India to go put together that application set to on what can work and what cannot. We went and tested those applications. We went and optimized those applications, and then we went and put it together in a way that it is easy to consume. That's the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did is we put the services around it, right? And nothing, all of this is not going to work unless you have a somebody looking at that data and that can make sense of that data for you. That's the other piece that we did. We tied up not just within the organization, but we tied up and worked with our partners to build out that skill in the market. And you'll be surprised with how much skill is there within India today. Fortunately, we have some very good young blood that has done this in colleges, and colleges has been training data modeling and data sciences for the better part of the last few years. The last few years of that resource crunch is starting to taper down. So we've started going and doing that piece as well. So we've put together the ease of deployment as far as the infrastructure goes. We've put together the certification and making sure that we know that the application works well. And we've gone and put together the support ecosystem so that either Dell or a partner can come out and help you set it up rather than you go and hire expensive resources to do it yourself.
It makes absolute sense, gentlemen. But thank you. I cannot thank you enough for what has clearly and truly been a very fascinating conversation. Because if I were to kind of take away a couple of points that I'd like to share with the audience today, it is that the need of the hour is clearly for manufacturing organizations in the MSME space that are seeking to optimize their operations is to understand the interplay between technology and human capital. Therefore, in a manner, like Siva rightly said, the digital blueprint or the digital core, which is imperative towards the objective of driving operational excellence, leading to a resurgence and acceleration within Indian industry and, of course, within organizations themselves. And therefore, in conclusion, it emerges clearly that manufacturing organizations that are ahead in scaling advanced production technologies are successfully navigating the durable shifts that are critical to managing unprecedented disruption, such that we have seen over the recent past. But, gentlemen, that's pretty much what we had time today. Siva, thank you. It has been nothing short of a privilege having you share
It's our
your
pleasure.
experience.
It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you. And Xavier, as always, Nothing short of sheer brilliance, Xavier. Thank you for taking time out today.
Thank you, Arjun. It has been great to be here.
Thank you. And for the audience, you were with Arjun Vishwanathan, your host. Stay with us, and we'll be back in just a moment with the next segment.
That was truly insightful. Thank you very much, Siva Subramanian, Mr. Kurian, and Mr. Vishwanathan for your valuable views and guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, your feedback is extremely important to us as it will help us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Hence, do not forget to fill in the feedback form towards the end of today's webinar. Up next is a panel discussion on unlocking innovations, the rise of digital, moderated by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, the Chief Research Officer, Strategy. On this panel, we will hear inputs by Mr. Atul Govill, the Chief Transformation Officer and Head, SAP and IT for India Glycols, and Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, the Head, Enterprise Cloud Alliances, AMD India. The conversation will revolve around how judicious use of technology can assist industry in accelerating value orientation while driving scale, agility, and innovation. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I today am going to be in conversation in this segment to have a fascinating set of conversations around the whole concepts of how within the MSME segment, within manufacturing, the intent and the need of the hour really is to drive an enhanced level of connectivity between what is clearly human capital and technology to form the digital core, such that the MSME segment by itself, as it were to be coming out from a post-disruption phase, is able to resiliently unlock resurgence, acceleration, and growth value. And to discuss this and more, please join me in welcoming, and in no specific order, Atul Govill, Chief Transformation Officer and Head of Technology, India Glycols. Atulji, welcome. Delighted that you're able to join us today, and thank you for making time.
Thanks, Arjun. Thanks for having me.
Thank
Look
you.
forward
And
for a great session. Yeah.
absolutely, sir. And Sanjeev Mehta, Country Manager, Enterprise Business, Cloud Business, and Alliances for AMD India. Sanjeev, wonderful to have you here. Privileged, sir. Really, thank you for making time.
Thank you for having me, Arjun, and Atulji. Good to be in conversation with you.
Thank you.
Well, given that we have about 30, a little short of 30 minutes, I'm directly going to jump into it. And Atul, if I were to, with your permission, come to you. This whole concept of the disruption is now pretty much behind us. And the need of the hour really is to look forward and move forward in a more resilient fashion. And therefore, the concepts or the tenets of connecting enterprises at an enterprise-wide level, at an organization-wide level, gather momentum, gather more, well, top floor conversations now. Now, when you see the whole concepts of how the MSME segment within manufacturing has kind of rebounded from the stall of the COVID-19 disruption, what in your view are the real challenges that the MSME segment faces today in its ability to resolutely and resiliently move forward?
Right. I think that's an interesting one, Arjun. So, there are three concepts, which we need to bear in mind, and it applies not just to MSMEs, so to say, but any industrial setup. So, one is whatever technologies or whatever disruptive technologies, so to say, we tend to adopt or we choose to adopt, has to solve these three issues, three important issues. One, it should lead to and drive better financial results. That's fundamental. Okay, otherwise nobody is going to sign on the checks. Okay. Second, most important thing is the aspects around how does this intervention, this digital intervention which we plan to undertake, either makes work or workers more productive.
Indeed.
That's the second important aspect. And third aspect, which is gaining and gathering momentum, is around how does this intervention drive your, or rather improve your your footprint around the ecology. How are you impacting the ecology, or how are you how are you fulfilling your social responsibility, so to say? It could be on emission norms, containing emission norms. It could be around workplace safety, environment, health and safety, all those acts. So these are these three tenets, no, which are of extreme importance. And regardless of the size of the enterprise, these have to be at the focus. So at any point of time, no, you have to address at least one or more to when we talk about any transformative initiatives. Anything else to me is fashionable, okay, and no, you can do whatever otherwise as well. So that's the key philosophy. But now coming on to the challenges part, no, I think there are challenges are in plenty, but the key thing which I see today is the COVID situation. No, if you see, has actually accelerated adoption of digital. We all know that there is nothing. There are no two thoughts about it. Rather, I would say not just accelerated. It has actually seen an exponential rise in the last 1 year, more than what we would have ever thought of. Having said that, still there are these leaders, who still would believe that their gut works in their favor, which I can tell you there have been multiple incidents which also happened during the COVID era. One, LG chemicals, which happened in Vizag, and many more
Very
safety incidents,
unfortunate.
which was on account of unattended or less uh, no, no, you had lesser number of team members, lesser number of skilled members on the shop floor, and you had to resume operations, and these incidents happened. Wherein the concept of a connected factory or a connected supply chain comes in handy. So these technologies, which were considered to be very futuristic a year or two back, are now becoming the core. That no, if you were to have remote, if you were to facilitate remote operations, it's not that no, you do not have any individuals on the shop floor, but then at least have those core and key equipments, processes connected, so that sitting wherever, you at least have a view of what's happening, what's from a productivity standpoint, from a safe operation standpoint, and also from an emission standpoint. So,
Outstanding.
so all that, no, it's becoming all the more important. So that's on the factory side, wherein using technologies like IoT, you can have this connected setup, and likewise you have robotics in the back office. So yeah.
That's a fascinating set of points that you made, Atul. And because Sanjeev, if I'm going to grab a few of them and come to you. Really, what Atul said is reflective of the fact that perhaps this disruption that we've just seen over the last 12 months has perhaps acted as a natural catalyst, if I may be allowed to use that in a perverse way, for transformation and large scale transformation at an organization wide level to start taking shape. Now, in that kind of a concept, how, in your view, and given that you've got a very wide spectrum in your visibility across different organizations as well as different sectors, how, in your view, should organizations therefore approach this whole concept of creating the digital core, which, like Atulji rightly said, is three pillars. But if I were to look at the human aspects and the technology aspects converging to form the digital core, how, in your guidance, should organizations approach this entire?
I think, as Atulji said, that it's gone through a major shift, manufacturing, and we're calling the industrial 4.0.
Yeah.
But I think the movement towards big data, or if it's for SAP, I think it's not really about the big data, but leveraging the data to automate and create a lot of process efficiency is very critical. And I think two things that really driving this is powerful use of technology. And on the other side would be commoditization of most of the goods, right? And specifically from MSC perspective, they can leverage certain technology and be more agile by using technology like, having moved to cloud, right? So it helps you from that perspective. It helps you to be more agile, adapt to the changes that you require, and you do not really have to worry about spending too much on the capex perspective so much, right? So you change the process, you adopt the tools, you use the data, you make your organization, your process, everything more agile, and that's where the technology is going to help. And today the technology is available at pay-per-use, right? It is infrastructure as a service or software as a service, and it is so dynamic that your cost can be based on the amount of hours that you use, right? So it is important for a lot of these MSMEs especially to leverage some of these technology, not continue using what has been historical or traditionally been used, and adopt that. And we have seen that in a lot of the digital native business who have started, the startups who have become unicorns now, they actually did that part, and that's where they have been able to see the growth. They have been able to reach out to more customers. They have been more agile. They have been able to change the process and do things as even on the worst of the the year that went by, right? And they were able to do that part. So you leverage technology in whatever small way, create those blocks and actually do that part. So process efficiency, usage of data, process efficiency, commoditize the product, and leverage technology, including mobility, right? So that people are able to work from anywhere.
That's very interesting. But Atulji, I want to come to you with one question, which begs the kind of importance that I think it does not always deserve. And I'm stepping and taking one step back. Sanjeev very, very brilliantly articulated the whole concept of leveraging data, putting it on the cloud, processing, and therefore leveraging technology to ease a lot of these process inefficiencies that we currently see. However, he also said something very, very interesting, which is my question to you. How, in your essential guidance, should organizations approach the concept of being able to even think digitally native? What are the tenets of embedding that within the very fabric of the organization? Atul Govind.
I think that points to a very sensitive question and contentious, I would say, because it points to productivity of labor also. And as I mentioned a while back, there is over reliance, over confidence on individuals' gut and experience in most companies, and it becomes a barrier to change or to think or adopt transformative methods. And this is, as you would agree, it's largely mindset and belief linked. So this is, and to drive digital, it's imperative to integrate both human and technical resources. Then only you would be able to get the desired outcomes. You just can't place technology and see that and say that no, you will get outcomes. Now I think what do we need to do this to address this is to create some success stories. So I'll give you an example.
Please.
Typically, in any manufacturing setup, if you were to go visit any manufacturing setup, largely, okay, most of them, MSMEs in particular, you would find that on the production floor or the shop floor, you would find workmen who are focused on mundane, repetitive, routine tasks. Okay, and you think of it, shop floor or the production floor is where the action is where the real conversion or where the real moolah is. Okay, and that is being handled by individuals who are just doing repetitive work. And then on top of them, you have the supervisory hierarchy wherein you have one or two experts who would either be sitting in the same plant vicinity or sitting elsewhere to perform that intellectual or non-routine task. But you may say, this is okay, fine, that this looks good. But if you were to take a hard look, but if you now think through that, no, if you were to ask these millennials to go out and apply their creative stuff on the shop floor, they would never be able to do that because they would find that this work is so repetitive and all the intellect and all is expected to be done by somebody sitting elsewhere, which is like an inverted pyramid. So what I'm trying to drive here is it's about now time has come that we look at smarter ways of operating the plant, more effective ways of looking at plant, taking a hard look at the inefficiencies. We always look at metrics that know which show us in a better frame. It could be that no, we are running the boiler at say 86% efficiency. What is more important is to look at losses first. Are we measuring losses? How effectively and how faithfully are we capturing those losses? Is it sensor driven or it's just a reconciliation of data? All that using technology, once we start looking at it, I can tell you most organizations, including MSMEs, would seek to gain at least 10 to 15% of productivity and including some kind of energy, fuel cost savings. And this could be higher, so to say. We have tried out in some instances in our plant when we did some transformative initiatives way back in 2015-14, and we've gained to those numbers. So I'm giving you with experience that no, this, if we were to look at the supply chain and the value stream mapping and do a phase wise no check that know how we are operating and what levers we can do to optimize it, there is significant money which can be unlocked out there.
That's actually fascinating. And Sanjeev, I must come to you. And I come to you not just leveraging what Atulji has just articulated in a very supreme fashion, but also on behalf of this wonderful audience that's listening in and tuning in to us today, is therefore given that these really are the requirements today from an industrial perspective. Sanjeev Mehta, from AMD's perspective, what therefore can we expect from your innovation stables that will do the following for Indian industry and, of course, focused on the MSME segment within manufacturing? What you yourself said, help achieve higher levels of agility, better levels of productivity and efficiency, and of course, at the end of the day, those kinds of fiscal metrics that, well, are existential in nature to any organization today, tomorrow, or yesterday. Therefore, what can we expect over the next 12 to 24 to 36 months that will help industry achieve precisely this? Sanjeev Mehta.
I think as Atulji said, right, there are three parameters that we really need to look at. And, at AMD, we completely align on those, right? One is the innovation that we do to help deliver that performance for the data analytics that you would want to do, right? So we are extremely great in terms of what we do on the HPC side, right? Today we are proud that we are building some of the fastest supercomputers in the world, and those services are also available on cloud as well, right? So for SMEs, if they want to do some manufacturing to aid product design, for example, they can leverage that HPC on the cloud for a short period of time. You don't need to really invest into that, right? So that's the work that we are doing with a lot of our cloud service providers. We are building up technology where one, the performance, second, the energy efficiency, right, is going to be high because we provide very high core count on our processors. So what you need probably 2.5 servers to have a 128 core, you can actually do it in a single server. So you are saving real estate, you are saving power, you are saving your cost of licensing. And so there are a lot of saving that you can do. There's a lot of work that we do with likes of Microsoft and Citrix and VMware to provide virtual infrastructure. So once you have that, you can actually leverage that for remote connectivity and individuals' productivity as well. Now, for all these, I think, especially on the design side of it, security becomes very critical.
Indeed.
And security is an absolute core to what our technology as we do. It's not an afterthought.
It cannot be.
Because it is not.
Security is one of the most important pillars of resilience anyways. So
absolutely, right? So if you look at any of these within a manufacturing setup, let's take an example of a pharma. And if you're building something and you want to still be on cloud, you can do it with confidential computing that has been offered by, say, Google and Azure, right? It secures your data. Even a virtualized environment, each of the VMs are encrypted separately, right? So there are technologies which are available on-prem or on cloud, where you can use different workloads to be more productive. you can use those tools to, to be more efficient, more agile, more productive, right? Create the user experience that you are looking at. To increase, as Atulji said, right, it has to be a financial gain,
Absolutely.
either cost saving or increasing the revenue and things like that. So leveraging the tools with a very clear articulation of what end result it's going to go get to you in terms of process or anything else is very important. And leveraging those tools are available today, along with our partners like Dell, to help many of these customers in manufacturing to do that as well.
Interesting, because Atulji, I'm going to come to you with, again, another very fundamental question. Sanjeev just very finely articulated the very wide spectrum of technology that is available today for industry to pretty much do what it wants and actually achieve the levels of success that it truly and richly deserves. But my question to you is it therefore not incumbent upon us to help organizations understand where this journey should even be started? Because one of the observations perhaps is that while wide scale transformation is the intent and the ability to adopt and adapt to newer realities certainly exists today as in significant more measure than it existed yesterday. But where should the journey be begun? And given your vast experience of so many decades in technology and transformation, what would you advise the audience that's tuning in today is how do you approach this journey and where do you start this journey?
I think, Arjun, good question, but it actually puts me in a tight spot. Though you spoke about these multiple decades of experience, so it may look as if I'm too old for the whole thing.
Certainly not. We were only highlighting the richness of your experience, Mr.
Great,
Govind.
great. No, I agree. And that was on the lighter note. But I think on this one, no, let me also tell you, as I mentioned a while back, that if you talk about where do we start? So first of all, this word transformation, is sometimes construed that you have to do something which is very radical, or something which is which may take humongous efforts, which actually puts off, or rather makes people think that whether we need to do this now or can we do it later. It's like, I can tell you, in our childhood days, we never wanted to grow or grow up. We always wanted those, whatever we had that. But then I think the right word would be, how do we proceed in the digital maturity model? Where are we today? How digitally mature we are? And it's not like the digital maturity which Google has or Amazon has for different reasons. An MSME or a production unit may not need this a similar maturity, so to say. So in your considering your own environment, your own competition, how well you are placed, what's your competition doing? I think having that assessment, and then being able to do a judicious assessment that where you stand, and then what are those top 2-3 things we need to do. I spoke about leveraging technology to lower your production cost. It could be lower your energy spend. I think I would mention that there are certain of these industries, particularly steel, cement, aluminum, and many such other industries which are very energy intensive, which wherein almost 30 to 40% of their cost is on account of energy spend or fuel spend. So how do we use digital to lower that cost? And then another important thing which we now see is that today customer is not seeking bulk products. They want mass customization, which means even a motorcycle or an automobile provider, they need to be able to reconfigure their shop floor based on the customer demand quickly. It should not take in days or shifts together to be able to make changes to adapt to the market needs and opportunity. So that's reconfiguration, how quickly you can do, how digital can help and supplement do that. That's one aspect. And one important aspect I want to also highlight, which is of extreme importance for us, particularly for those companies operating out of India, is that we need to agree, we all agree that that there is significant need to have a higher no, your go-to market is actually impacted because the whole speed of transportation, the speed of transportation is very low compared to other no, developed countries, which causes a very high transportation and logistic cost overhead. Uh, Almost around 12 to 15% of the production
Yes.
cost is on account of
Transportation and
transportation and
logistics.
yeah, which is a very high number. In most developed economies, this number would be around 7 to 8% or even lesser. So there is a huge margin, and now with new highways coming up and all that, we now need to look at technologies. How do we optimize this logistics spend in conjunction with other transportation provider, logistics service providers, and gather data from multiple sources and then convert it into some useful knowledge to make more effective decisions and get have this whole cycle streamlined to reduce and optimize cost.
Very, very powerful, gentlemen, Atulji specifically. But I do have a view on the clock, and I know you've got a packed day ahead. In conclusion, really, Sanjeev, if I may come to you for your quick take on this one particular question that I had, is as you sit at the center of crafting technology um, at AMD, what are you betting big on for by over the next, let's say, 12 to 18 to 24 months that will spur Indian industry onto a more accelerated journey of transformation and growth? Sanjeev Mehta.
I think the biggest area would be, the challenges that we have faced, the innovation that will come in terms of the go-to-market strategy, right? We've seen a lot of things from brick and mortar going on to online and combining and doing things like that. So there's going to be a lot of change or adoption in the new go-to-market strategy. That's going to be one. From technology perspective, there's going to be a lot of investment that's happening on the cloud spending, right? So people are moving towards cloud. They understand the advantages of how cloud can help them to be more agile. So that's the second area. The third area is how to leverage technology like HPC, AI, ML, AR, VR, for one from data perspective, other from skilling perspective as well, right? So we see those trends being adopted across the verticals. Including manufacturing, right? There'll be a lot of areas that we see things happening even on 3D printing, for example, right? To the point that Atulji mentioned about, customized. It's not about volume. It's about customizing, right? So there's a lot of digitization that will happen even on the additive manufacturing space. You will see the entire design philosophy of how you used to design a product earlier versus now what you need to do onto your software is going to be different if you're going to be manufacturing or doing a 3D printing. Right? So there's going to be transformation across the design, across the process, across adoption, and leveraging technology to make the right decisions. And a lot of technology is going to help from that perspective. Blockchain a little far away, but that's going to play a big role there as well. But I think a cloud with all the agility and nimbleness that the organization at whatever level that they are looking at is going to help, right? And one more point that Atulji, when I was speaking to one of our partners yesterday only, was about involving some of these companies to see what is it competitively that they are doing against their competition in their space, right? Not only within India, but get that knowledge that comes from outside of the country, use that and see what is the best fit for you. It could be from process perspective, it could be from technology perspective as well. And then, once you invest that there, and today, Atulji, I'm sure would second me on that, but CFOs today bet on it. Technology is no more a decision of an IT. It's a boardroom discussion.
Yeah, indeed.
Right. So everybody needs to really think through about leveraging technology to enhance productivity, production, get the cost down, get efficiency up, create user experience, right? And technology in each of these aspects has a very vital role to play. And we at AMD are, aligned with every aspect of this, from technology along with our OEM and partners and cloud partners as well.
Thank you. That was very finely articulated, and I think it is suffice to say that I think what we have achieved today via this dialogue is really bridge the gap between the intent, what is possible, and what can be achieved. And for that, I have been in the real sense, Atulji, Sanjeev, privileged to have had this dialogue with you. Thank you so much for making time out of your, and I know there's very, very busy schedules. It has been very, very grateful, sir.
Indeed, a thought-provoking session. Thank you once again, Mr. Atul Goval, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, and Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan. Dear delegates, before we formally conclude today's session, please do remember to fill in the feedback form and share your ratings about today's webinar. That's all we have in store for you. We hope you've enjoyed today's session and have many fruitful takeaways. On behalf of Dell Technologies India and Strategic Solutions, I thank you all for attending today's session. And I would also like to thank our panelists and expert speakers for enriching us with their experiences and insights. Do remember to follow us on our social media pages to keep getting regular updates and stay in tune with the happenings. We look forward to engaging with you through our upcoming initiatives. Thank you once again. Take care. Stay safe.